Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we have 3 decks for you that are all competing in the very top tiers of the Marvel Snap Infinite metagame. That means that you can use these to climb to get Infinite. These are proven top tier decks. We've also got one that is just completely bonkers. The Lady Deathstrike one is, it has to be seen to believed. That's going to be our second deck. Our first deck of the day is Dubos Hela. Dubos is a streamer that you'll be able to find on Twitch. Excellent player. He is not one of the top ranked players right now, but he sent this to Husky Puppies, and Husky Puppies is floating in the 10 to 20 range on the Infinite leaderboard, and this is one of the decks he played. When I sent this to Father Newman, and you can find a Father Newman video playing this deck, when I sent this to Father Newman in his Twitch chat, multiple other people were like, oh, I saw Husky Puppies playing that. So this is a really, really solid deck. This definitely is a workable, effective way to play Marvel Snap. It's a nice, simple Hela deck. The meta is full of Hela. If you play anywhere, you're going to see an absolute ton of Hela, and this is one of the better versions I've seen thus far because it solves a lot of those Holodex problems, and like it says, I don't have to deal with your nonsense if you're playing bounce. I don't have to deal with your nonsense if you're trying to play silky smooth. I could just go over you because like you can only play one card. My one card is Hela that's going to bring back 40 power. Your one card is who cares? It's not bringing back that much. All right, you can find Dubos at twitch.tv/Dubos, and again, YouTube's Father Newman is has a video on this. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it will be soon if it's not yet. This is a relatively cheap deck. The only card I'd really say you absolutely need that Series 4 or 5 is Corvus Glaive. So if you're looking for a really cheap deck that you can play that's mostly Series 3 cards, go get Glaive. Red Hulk is also in the deck, but Vision, Devil Dino, Doom, Odin, all of these things are perfectly acceptable replacements for the Red Hulk. This is right now a Hela meta. This is the most Hela meta. Hela doesn't have a crazy win rate because Hela often beats itself, right? But its cube rate is through the roof. It's got really, really high cube equity, and it basically does it like it plays solitaire. It only really, really loses when it's playing against itself. So turn 1 or 2, you blade when there's a good target, and good targets would include Infinite, Giganto, Magneto, and Red Hulk. Generally, I'd rather not chuck Red Hulk on turn 1 when he's only 11 power, but hey, sometimes you do. Turn 3, you would like to Corvus. I will often, if I have Blade in hand and Corvus in hand, keep Blade in hand in case I draw Hela, and this way make sure that I've got less chance of chucking that Hela. Lady Sif is fine in the following circumstances. I will do Lady Sif, obviously, if I have Death in hand. I will also do Lady Sif if I've got a bunch of 6s that aren't Hela. If my hand is 3 6s in a Hela, then you're taking the 50-50 most of the time if that is your only play, but not always, depending on if you have Jubilee, Dracula, etc. Turn 4, I would generally rather play Corvus, but Jubilee, if Hela's already in hand and not going to be targeted by Sif or Blade, is a good call, and you can always just drop Dracula. Turn 5, this is where you play the first of your 6s, or if you're playing opponent's deck that wants to play a bunch of stuff, please drop your Sandman. You can also, conceivably, if you discarded Sandman, and you know your opponent wants to play all that stuff, and you have access to Hela, play Hela here. And then turn 6 is Hela, or the biggest thing you can. That usually means Red Hulk, but it could also mean Giganto or Magneto in specific instances. Hopefully, you've got something big left in hand for that Dracula. And that's how you play this deck. It's a really simple, straightforward play line. It steals an absolute crap ton of cubes. This is a must-play deck. Give it a shot when you have the chance, please. Also, please hit that sub, like, and comment. We exclusively get tons of top meta decks here on this channel. Yesterday, we featured the number 2 ranked deck on the Infinite leaderboard, a Loki deck, or not yesterday, I guess technically on Friday. Yesterday was the podcast here on the channel. We constantly get you the best decks before anyone else does. Please hit that sub, hit that like, hit that comment. Help us grow. We're at 10,000. We're trying to double that. Let's go. We need you to watch longer so that YouTube recommends us more. If you're willing to, even if you get the decks, if you're willing to just let it play, we'd greatly appreciate it. All right, our questions of the day. Zay the Filthman wants me to talk about quick boosters. So the quick booster thing, in the shop, it was the terrible deal where you would basically overpay to upgrade a card from the shop has been changed. Now what happens when you hit that button is you are buying the upgrade for that card without having to spend the boosters, which is absolutely incredible. It is now like a must-have. If you see a card, a card that you want to upgrade in there, you can now upgrade it without using any boosters in the quick booster in the shop. Thanks for Zay the Filthman for making me look into this. It's an excellent new feature, worth checking out. MBTB Shannon is curious when to prioritize credits versus tokens. So the way I've always had this explained to me is, if you're Series 3, credits mean new cards in different ways than after. Once you're done with Series 3, and if you're about halfway done with Series 4, you start prioritizing tokens, because you're not going to be able to get nearly as much out of caches. You're very rarely going to have those 2-for-1 weeks, and you probably have most of the cards you want at that point. Now, at that point, you want tokens, because what you're trying to do is target those extra, like, let's say they buff, for example, Black Knight, who is a useless card that they then buffed, right? Or like you skipped Cannonball because everyone said Cannonball was bad that first week, and now he's everywhere. Well, if you have the tokens, you can just say, I don't have to wait for it, that's now my card, right? That's of huge, incredible value, whereas credits don't really help you do that at all, right? They'll get you the new cards, but they don't help you get those older ones. So once you get that far in, tokens are a quicker and more efficient way. Obviously, we're talking about spending our gold or real money here. So credits are a more effective way of getting cards earlier, and once you are about halfway through Series 4, it switches to tokens. Claire would like my feeling on the Oxford comma. I'm an English teacher, and people randomly like asking me grammar questions, so here is one for you. Okay, so Oxford comma is the comma that comes after the if there are 3 or more items on a list, you will say comma and, comma or, comma whatever conjunction you want there. You can also just exclude that comma. You can say, I like rice, comma, beans, comma, and chicken. You don't need that second comma there. Technically, no. This was literally changed as newspaper companies for trying to save money in printing costs. Literally, just because they're printing so many, that little bit of extra ink ended up adding up over time, or at least that's the rumor I've heard. The grammatical argument is that comma is fundamentally replacing the conjunction. The conjunction is fundamentally replacing the comma in that list. There is something called a syndeton where you just go, I like rice, comma, beans, comma, chicken, and you don't have the and there. And there's polysyndeton where you would do, I like rice and beans and chicken, and then you wouldn't need any commas. So I understand the situation. I'm fundamentally more of a descriptivist than a prescriptivist. I don't really care whether you use it or not, as long as it's clear what you mean, right? Generally speaking, I think that, like, if you're going to say, I like rice, so I like rice and chicken. Rice and chicken is a meal, and rice and beans are a meal, right? So, like, do you want to say you like all 3? It depends what you're trying to say, and you need to figure out how to be clear, right? That's where phrases like as well as come in and all that stuff. It gets really complicated. Generally speaking, I think life is easier if we always use the Oxford comma, because it makes it clear, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, because usually clear communication is simpler. It makes a lot more work once in a blue moon, and instead eliminate something that's a lot more common. Meh. If you'd like your questions read out in tomorrow's video, leave one in the comments. All right. This is the deck I was talking about earlier. Avazord is ranked like 23 right now, 22, something like that. He's been floating between 20 and 30, started at like 37, and then got up to, this might be as high as 2 remembers. With this deck is completely silly. No one knows what the hell it's doing, and it is very, very, very powerful. Now, you might note US Agent is here. You can play this without US Agent, but you probably need Man-Thing and Deathstrike, and you definitely need Kitty and Hope. So, it's really, really hard to replace certain cards in this deck, but if you have access, no one's going to know what you're doing, and you are going to just straight up rip off cubes. Now, this is built for Deathstrike and Man-Thing. Elsa or US Agent can be Angela. If you have neither, you can play Lizard as well. Lizard is perfectly fine here. It's basically always a 2/5 thanks to Luke Cage. You need Hope, Kitty, and Red Hulk. This deck operates entirely freaking differently. If you see Hope Summers, please, 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 please do not play this without Hope. Red Hulk is just the biggest thing, and this is a deck that needs the biggest thing to win sometimes. Lastly, Jeff can be Nightcrawler. And again, you can watch Ava play this at twitch.tv/Avazord. He speaks Portuguese, he's Brazilian, but if he's perfectly capable of speaking English, and you can say hello, tell him I sent you, let him know. All right, so turn 1, Kitty. Turn 2, Jeff is better than Kitty, is generally better than U.S. Agent. You don't really want to play U.S. Agent now, but you will. Turn 3, Hope is like super your priority, better than Elsa and Luke. At that point, you would really like to Man-Thing on Hope, but if you can also conceivably go Kitty Elsa because you can start powering that up. That's also an extra 2 energy next turn as opposed to an extra 1, which does matter. You can I would generally not magic on turn 3 if I had any of the other 3s, but you would magic on turn 4 with Kitty. Turn 5, Magic Plus or Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus is hilarious because you're either getting a bunch of big things that you can Valkyrie or a bunch of small things that you can Lady Deathstrike. You're perfectly happy and get that win either way. Turn 6 is either 2 3s or Valkyrie, and turn 7 is Valkyrie or Deathstrike with U.S. Agent. And that's it. You take away so much of their power, right? Especially with Luke Cage, you take away so much of their power. You're often playing a 3-12 U.S. Agent, and a 2-12 U.S. Agent, and then a 4-11 Man-Thing, and you just go through the roof in power. You're playing so much efficient power that opponents really struggle when you're ripping up their power thanks to Deathstrike and Valkyrie. This deck is an absolute thing of beauty. Incredibly powerful, tons to do, tons of ways to win. As long as you remember to prioritize Hope Summers and have too much energy, there's a ton this deck can do. You're gonna have to count out how much energy you need, how much space you want to keep on Hope, but as long as you're willing to do that, this is incredibly strong, and this is not what I expected when they changed Lady Deathstrike, but that 7 power is so much in this kind of deck. When she's killing 2-3s, she's now 5-13, right? Just be careful, make sure that you're killing their stuff and not your stuff, and you just get so much extra power from cards like U.S. Agent, Man-Thing, and Lady Deathstrike in this deck. Cool. Let's keep going. We have a Patreon. I try not to advertise this all the time, but it's patreon.com/snapjudgments. We have 3 tiers for you. The first is the $1 tier. That is the Show Love tier. The Show Love tier is basically just you saying thank you for the videos. It ends up being like 30 cents a video, basically. Something silly per video if you support the $1 tier. It also gives you access to the tournament. We will be announcing and starting the Snap Judgments League, and we have a tournament about to happen with Pursuit Gaming. Hey Tucker, hey Zal Snap. We have a tournament about to happen with Tucker and Zal that also you will be eligible for. So please make sure you check that out on the Show Love tier, just $1. $5 tier, you get early access to videos, although honestly not this week. If you're new here, I just got my appendix out and my sleep schedule is all screwy. You get content suggestions, podcast guest questions, deck doctor, and priority answers. And the $10 tier is the big one. You get so much stuff. You get a once-month exclusive podcast. You get exclusive content, both written and in video. You get an exclusive monthly giveaway. Mailbags. We gave away 2 PAX codes, for example, an exclusive monthly giveaway last month. You get specific mailbags, question and answers, end of daily video shoutouts, priority questions for podcast, and everything from the previous tier. So that's the big one, but we give you so much for your money. We're also still sort of losing money because we give so much back to the community, but hey, it's okay. It's worth it. All right. Our last thing is the easiest deck in the world to play right now because there's nowhere near enough Enchantress, and if you're not seeing Enchantress and you're not seing like Reality Stone, and Thanos is still the number 1 deck, like the number 1 player is playing Thanos right now. We featured that deck last week. Well, this has got no answer, right? Like if no one's playing the stuff that beats this beats everything. Cool. Like Eliath was bad for this kind of deck, not anymore. Like there doesn't appear to be a good answer for it. So Spyro took this into the top 10. He stopped playing and then fell down to like 14 or so at last time I checked. But this is an absolutely great deck. You can find it over on Spyro's YouTube. It's youtube.com/Spyro'sUp. Ravona here can be Zabu, but it's way worse. You really do need Ravona and Living Tribunal for this, but everything else is Series 3 or lower, so this is a very affordable deck. We did a really good job, I think, today. That middle deck, the shocking one, was a bunch of high series cards, but the first and last decks are 2 high series cards each. I think that's worth it. I think that these decks are where I would go if I was early and trying to get to Infinite. So this is completely OP, right? Like this is a busted deck right now. You can win with it multiple ways. So turn 1 you pass because you have nothing. Turn 2 Ravone is basically always better than Psylocke. Turn 3 if you can negative, you better snap, right? You're also fine playing Jubilee on 3 and trying to fly into negative. And you're fine playing Magic on 3. I don't love a Super Scroll on 3, but I'm not against it. I prefer to reveal my Super Scroll later. Turn 4 is the exact same thing as turn 3. Turn 5, Iron Man, if you didn't play negative, if you have the 05 Iron Man, you're doing different things, is generally better than Magic, is generally better than Sarah. Turn 6, you want Onslaught, either that Iron Man or that Sarah, ideally. And then turn 7, you drop Tribunal on that Onslaught Iron Man lane. Or if you have Onslaught Sarah, you sort of just drop everything. A doubled Blue Marvel with Iron Man and Mystique copied is through the roof power. This puts out more power than basically anything. It is the easiest deck to put up a ton of power with. If you are smart at snapping and retreating with this deck, you can, will, and should hit infinite. So please, 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 if you have access to it, play this deck. If you're still going for infinite, if you're looking to just climb and you have no shame in just running, you have to run, right? You have to run when you just don't see the pieces. But when you see the pieces, you just win 90% of the time. And because of that, this cube rate is through the roof. You should be playing this deck a ton. Cool. All right, certain tiers of support on Patreon, the $10 tier, come with on-air things. We've got Abigail Giesler, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, Fa Thorn Newman, who you can check out for gameplay for that Hella deck, Good Dog Gamer, Inc., Jane Every, JD McDonaldino, check him out on Twitch, Caretix Lee, Koirei, who asked a question earlier today, KCH, John O'Golding, Doku, Philip Ratkovich, who we featured a deck from earlier this week, Haplo, Kenny Loggins, living in the danger zone, Rob Silverman, Juan Diego Lebed, The Bizza, X-Force V, Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, welcome to the crew, Kevin Cihoda. Let me know if I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, shoot me a message on Patreon, please. Mod Supreme Models, happy freaking birthday to my former student, Louis Antonez. I didn't just have my appendix out. I'd be out with him right now instead of making this video. Happy birthday, Louis. Matt H., Mikey Hijinks, the DJ, No Flex, Ocularis, Craig Sterry, Pretty Chill, who is in fact pretty chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, the Pirate King Tucker, the Homie Min, and of course Gunny T. And I didn't add Denman Falcon, but Denman Falcon too. You're the goat. Gunny T stands for shit. I can't believe I forgot Denman Falcon. All right, that's it for today. We brought you 3 decks that are comfortably sitting in the top 30 of the Marvel Snap metagame. You aren't going to get as many decks as these that are proven and successful anywhere else. Hit that sub, hit that like, hit that comment. Check out that Patreon. We really appreciate your support. We will see you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Peace, y'all.